All right. Sorry about that. I had to answer a phone call. So going back to that question, yeah, I totally get this a lot. And a lot of times when people come into Apex, I see the way they were taught to plant, and I totally get this issue. So you're doing slide box, and again, like you're trying to get your hands up and hit the box and push into the box. A lot of times, what I feel like happens with slide box though is if you don't move the box, you're going to fall on your ass, right? Like the athlete knows they got to come down. They got to like really lunge into it and hit the box to get it moving. And, it kind of looks okay, right? Like once the pole hits the box, hands go above the head. That's fine. But the thing is when you're planting, right? So I'm going to stand so you can see my hands. So when I'm planting, if you teach a traditional like flip punch, now imagine there was a pole in my hand, right? When you flip, that tip didn't go down. That tip stays up. And then when you punch your hands up, that tip goes up even more. You're going to miss the box. This is why a traditional plant, the way most athletes deal with this, and this is why this coach is experiencing this, the kids go to the pit. Now they have to drop this bottom arm, get that tip down, and then flip last second. And now they're crashing into the box. You're getting a big collapse. They can't jump up, right? This is why, and I'm going to email you a link to our planting drills. But like, this is why at Apex, the way we teach it is like, you're constantly allowing the tip to drop, but you're keeping the left hand high. So the right hand's coming up, tip is dropping, and the left arm just extends. So as the left arm's extending, that tip just keeps dropping, which allows us to jump up more, and then the hands go up at takeoff. Again, the other thing that I would stress in this situation is that don't be too stressed, like if there is a little bit of collapse of the bottom arm, as long as the bottom hand gets above the head, right? I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like, that's great if your bottom arm doesn't collapse, but if your bottom hand, right, is right here at takeoff, you're going to end up blocky, right? I need this left hand to go above the head. If it goes above the head, now I have leverage. As I swing, I can really like pull myself up with my bottom hand, right? So it's really about leverage. I think the problem sometimes that we run into in the pole vault is, one, we look too much at position and we start to talk about physics, right? But the thing is, we're not talking about biology. We're not talking about the human body, right? We're not talking about muscles, ligaments, tissues. Even sometimes like I think about that big reverse C position, and you think about it like, forget about the legs, but even just the upper body, it's like, how far back is okay for your shoulders? That's not a movement that's favorable for your joints, And so again, talking about something like the bottom arm, yeah, if I'm a kid, let's say, okay, I'm 5'9", I'm gripping 11 because I'm a beginner. How extended is my bottom arm going to be at takeoff without blocking myself out, right? So don't worry about that. I think also if you address the plant and make sure that they're continually dropping the plant as they extend their bottom arm, then they're going to feel more comfortable not like letting the tip drop so early and then just running into it at takeoff. They'll be able to jump up more. I hope that clears up that question. I feel like I covered it. I feel like I can almost do a whole podcast episode on this if yeah, I'd have to set up like slides and videos and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I think it's a great question. And again, it's a common thing. I think especially when you add the slide box into it, that's going to cause kids to really lunge forward and try to push the slide box. But now when you do that in the actual vault, you're going to get a lot of collapse from especially younger, more novice type vaulters. I think you got to try to get them to jump up so their hands go up above their head, which you have to address that plant. You got to keep that left hand high, keep the tip dropping the whole time and just extend. Don't punch the hands up because then the tip is going to miss the box and you're going to have this issue. I think that makes sense. If you have questions, again, email me. I will expand on this. Let's see. We got one more question. So on YouTube, actually, on our YouTube channel, we got a question. Someone said, most masters I know of have to find out by trial and error could mean injury. Yeah, I hear you there, dude. And I think, to be honest, masters or not masters, I feel like this is a lot of times the problem is like a lot of people are trying to figure out the pole vault by trial and error. And I don't care if you're young or old, like, yeah, it could mean injury. How to train, which drills, how many reps, how many sets, etc. I understand Sean Francis is qualified in biomechanics, so his input in this area would be valuable. Unfortunately, I don't have Sean on the podcast today. Another topic, even for young people, there's a variety of contradictory advice about diet and strenuous exercise. For older athletes, it would be helpful to know which areas of diet should be enriched or reduced, simply because the demands of the body differ as one gets older. Another topic, I train hard, but still find the number of full run vaults I can take is limited. So I do short run work after, not before long run. Do you regard this as feasible, or would dividing the runs into separate days be better? I'm sure that's enough to be going on with. All the best. Thank you for the questions. These are some great questions. To address the first part, about the trial and error and how many reps, how many sets, I think kind of like what I explained with the coach that asked about starting from scratch, beginning of the season with these multi-event athletes, multi-sport athletes. I think the same goes for masters, because I don't think every young person is the same. I don't think every masters athlete is the same. I've had masters athletes that come in and they're in phenomenal shape and they can take more jumps than some of my younger athletes. Then I have other masters athletes that come in where I could tell, pole vault is the reason they want to get back into shape. They weren't in shape to begin with and then started pole vaulting. So it's like pole vault is just one piece of the puzzle to get them back in shape, get them going. And with those people, I mean, look, like if I have someone who comes in, like just to give you some numbers, imagine a guy that's, in his 60s. Let's say he's, 5'10", and let's say he's, 240, 250, right? So dealing with someone like that, and especially if they haven't been working out, there's certain things that I avoid. I'm not going to be doing a lot of bounding stuff. I'm not going to be doing jumping drills off the pit with them. I don't want them jumping and landing on their feet until they're ready for that, right? So, and especially if they're coming in and they tell me, hey, I have a knee issue, or, I have a hip issue, right? You don't want them jumping and landing, that's very abusive, right? So the thing is, like, we might modify, like, even when we go through our running drills, we'll do a B-skip, straight leg, bounding, and high knee butt kicks. We'll take out the bounding, maybe they'll do half the amount of pole runs, because they do want to get on the pit, right? So again, kind of like what I said earlier about the colleges and stuff, and even, dealing with COVID, you have to pay attention to your client. What does your client want? You might have this perfect program planned out where you're like, you know what, I'm going to take them through certain movements, like teach them, a proper squat, make sure they can do a pull-up, and then we're going to get on the pole vault pit. Well, that person might not be interested in that. They want to pole vault the first day. And if it's physically feasible, you got to get them to do it. And I've always had a very easy time taking someone from 1 left to 2 left to 3 left, even their first day back. Obviously, if they experience any kind of pain or something like that, we stop. Especially, I think sometimes with people who vaulted when they were younger, they just get so jacked up. They have adrenaline going. They might not even realize something is hurting, So I'll even ask a couple times, like, hey, everything feel all right? You feel good? This, that, and the other. So again, I know I'm not really answering your question because I'm not giving you the number of reps, like how many ones they should do, how many twos. Because I think that's up to the person. I think just like you would do in a weight room or a setting like that, I think as a coach, you have to watch. And if technique starts to break down, if they were jumping up a little bit, they were landing pretty deep into the pit and now they're starting to land more shallow, probably time to shut it down. Don't let your ego get in the way. And I think the trouble is sometimes with some masters, one, they might be jumping on their own. They don't have anybody coaching them, right? So now your ego is even more like, you're like, I want to take one more. You've got to be more on the conservative side. If you're starting to lose pole speed, not landing as deep, shut it down. I think the other thing, even if you do have a coach, a lot of times masters athletes, they're like, well, I know, I did this and I want to do that and whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but we're going to do as much as you can, because we want to make sure you can get to practice next week. We want to make sure you can be at practice a month from today. We want to make sure a month from today you can take more reps, So it's not about how many reps you get today. It's about how many reps you can get in the future. Second part of your question, you ask about, there's so much contradictory advice about diet and strenuous exercise. You say this could go for young people as well. But for older athletes, it would be helpful to know which areas of diet should be enriched or reduced, simply because the demands of the body differ as one gets older. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm a pole vault coach. I'm not a nutritionist, but I definitely do think that most people don't take enough protein in. When people come into the club, and we kind of evolved through this at Apex. So I don't right away talk about diet with an athlete when they come in. My first job is to get you pole vaulting. So we address the pole vault, we talk technique, we do a lot of drills, we'll keep it going. Once we get to a certain point, we're like, wow, let me show you a couple exercises that might be beneficial, right? Like if you get stronger in pull-ups, or maybe if your squat gets better, you can run faster, and, now, you'll jump higher. Once they start training, and if I start to see that they're looking fatigued, we'll start to talk about sleep. Sleep is super important. Like every single person, I love it. There's always memes about this in the strength and conditioning community. They're like, what's the best supplement you can take as an athlete? And it's like sleep. That is the best supplement. Like if you're not getting enough sleep, that's going to create issues in your vault. Your CNS, your central nervous system, is not going to recover, right? Forget about your muscles. Your system between your brain and musculature, your central nervous system, was sending and receiving messages. When you do something that's really, really intense, like a full vault, you need enough recovery. The industry standard is kind of like 72 hours between strenuous days. So let's say you're doing full sprints, or you did a 1 rep max in the weight room, or you did power cleans, or you pole vaulted, right? You should typically have about 72 hours. Now you can maybe pole vault 24 hours later, but it has to be drills, right? It's got to be GPP. It cannot be, full vaults, right? So that becomes important. And so then once, they're doing all that kind of stuff, now, once we talk about sleep, now we can start talking about nutrition. And one of the major things that people don't realize is how much protein intake they actually need. I always go by just this number, and listen, you'll see numbers more than this, and you'll see numbers a little bit less than this, but I kind of just rule of thumb, guys, try to get 80% of your body weight in grams of protein a day. So the example I always give, which is super ridiculous, imagine you weighed 100 pounds. That means you have to have 80 grams of protein a day. Right? So that becomes really, really tough. You start to do the math, right? Let's say you have 2 eggs in the morning. Awesome. That's 6 grams of protein per egg. So that's 12 grams of protein. Okay. Now at lunch, let's say you have a sandwich. That's 20 grams of protein probably, right? Doesn't matter whether it's turkey, roast beef, whatever. It's probably 20 grams, right? So we're up to 32 grams of protein. Now, let's say even you have a protein shake. Fine. That's 25 grams, right? So we're talking about 57 grams of protein, right? And now let's say for dinner, I don't know, you have chicken parm. I'm not saying that's healthy, but whatever. Let's say you have chicken parm. All right, it's another 20, maybe, right? So now you're almost up to that 80 grams of protein, but here's the thing: who weighs 100 pounds, right? So you're 150-pound male. You need 130 grams of protein. Wow, you're super deficient. That's why I always, I like to tell athletes, and again, with masters athletes, it depends if you have certain health issues like high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, whatever, right? But it's hey, you can always add some more eggs. Have 4 to 6 eggs. Have a protein, have a 50-gram protein shake. Now, some people will say, they're like, Bronco, but your body can only process 30 grams of protein in one sitting. it's tough. If you listen to people talk about the studies where that was done, they're talking about regular people. They're not talking about training athletes. Like, do you mean to tell me, and if you don't know, Eddie Hall, he's, I don't know if he's still the world record holder, but he was a world record holder for the deadlift. The man weighs almost 400 pounds. He deadlifted 1,200 pounds. You're telling me that he can only process 30 grams of protein, just like, I don't know, the average guy who weighs 170 pounds can process 30 grams. I mean, like, I'm thinking he could process more, right? So I think if you're a training athlete, you can process more. Or break it up, have 25-gram, protein shakes throughout the day. Maybe have like a little protein snack in between meals, so protein is very, very, very important. So I definitely think that's a big key. If you do that, you drink plenty of water. I feel like typically athletes should be drinking at least a gallon of water. That should be really, really helpful. And look, there's a lot of people out there. Like, if you're an older athlete, here, I'm going to show you just a picture of this guy. This guy is unbelievable. Hold on. Mark Sassone. He's like this guy. He's a proponent of the Primal Blueprint diet. This is what he looks like. This guy's an animal, right? And he's either like late 50s or early 60s, and phenomenal shape. And the guy does explosive stuff too. He still does like ultimate frisbee and such. So, I mean, he's a great example. He's a really big proponent on like protein and fats. It's like a ketogenic diet. Then you have guys like Dr. Sean Baker, who started talking about, carnivore diet, which has been doing, what? Sorry about that. I had a technical difficulty. So Dr. Sean Baker, he's talked about the carnivore diet, which is like meat based. But again, I wouldn't tell anybody what to eat specifically, but I think definitely if you increase your protein intake and, you drink plenty of water, you'll definitely be better off. I think that would help a lot. The last part of your question to address is that you asked about, doing full vaults and then doing short run at the end. I think that's fine, especially if that's supposed to be your big day. But I think also separating it, like every once in a while, you got to come in with the mindset of like, I'm just going to do drills today. Like, I'm just going to work on these weaknesses I have. Maybe I'm having trouble with the plant. I should do some takeoff drills from a 3, right? And really work on my plant. Maybe you're having a tough time with your swing. Maybe you want to do some vaults where you just swing and don't add the turn, whatever the case may be. But I think that helps because you're already taxed, right? You did those full vaults and now you're coming in to do some short run stuff. I don't know if that short run stuff is going to be as sharp as you want it to be. It's going to take away a little bit from what you're trying to accomplish. Like you're almost at that point, I would feel like you're almost pole vaulting more for like the workout benefit, you know what I mean? More than the technical aspect. And you want to keep your pole vault technical, yes, it is strenuous. Yes, it is a workout, but you want it to be sharp. You want to be working on something. You don't want to just take jumps to take jumps. I mean, listen, if you want some cardio, you can go for a run, you can go for a bike ride, you can, do some sled drags or sled pushes, there's a lot of options you have, so just, it all depends on the purpose. I tend to break those things into separate days, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that you're doing it. I think that's all the questions that I have. And again, really, really thankful, guys. Please keep the questions coming. I would love to answer any questions you have. It even sparks my mind sometimes about things that I want to talk about and expand on. So thank you. Thank you for sending in the questions. Please keep them coming. Just email any questions you have at apexvaulting@gmail.com. And again, subscribe leave a review. We love feedback. Guys, if you see this on YouTube, you want to leave a comment, that'd be great. If you see it on Apple iTunes podcast, leave a comment, leave a review. That would be great. We love the feedback. We love hearing from you guys. And also follow us on Instagram at The Real Apex Vaulting, or Apex Vaulting on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you for joining us.